You are now listening to the House by the Video Store podcast.
There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk near.
We have such sights to show you.
I kick ass for the Lord!
Praise God! Give away!
Welcome to the House by Video Store podcast. I'm your host, William, and joining me today will be Derek.
Hello.
Sean.
Hello.
And star of the new X-Men film, X-Men Apocalypse, is Jake.
¿Qué pasa?
He's just somebody that we've been friends with for quite a while, and he's listened to the podcast. I figured we'd have him on because we were recording this on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, if you're not aware of what that holiday is. And we're going to be talking about the 1985 space vampire. I don't know if it's a classic, but it's a 1985 space vampire film, Lifeforce, directed by Tobe Hooper, which is one of the films that's probably lesser talked about out of his filmography.
I think it's because it's so hard to find too. Which I mean, they re-released it recently, but that's never one you like see on would ever see on TV or anything. How did you first watch it, Jake?
I was at a friend's bachelor party actually back in I think it was February, and one of his friends just popped it on, and I was a little intoxicated. Let's just say I saw a naked lady walking around, and I was like, "This movie's awesome. I need to actually watch this when I'm a little more sober."
Yeah, I just heard of it knowing Tobe Hooper and stuff, but like would have never stumbled upon it, you know.
Well, and too, like, there's a podcast I listen to that's called How Did This Get Made, where they talk about movies, and they discussed it at one point. And it's something where I'd heard about it, and I'd seen, like, some clips from it and stuff. I just never actually sought it out and watched it.
I'd actually never heard of it or knew
I saw a lot of clips from it, particularly the chick, Matilda, right?
Matilda May.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before we get in discussing that, there's not been a lot of news because we recorded pretty late on the week on the last podcast, so not much has happened between then, considering that Thanksgiving has happened during the week. So there's really no news. So I think we'll just kind of discuss some of the general things we've been watching before we get into discussing Lifeforce. Then just kind of going through everything. Like, I didn't get a chance to watch much of anything. As we mentioned, we shot a short last week on Sunday, and I've been editing that all week. So I didn't really get a chance to watch much of anything on top of the holidays. So I did not get to talk about anything because I didn't watch anything. So Derek?
Yeah, between like sports and getting my house ready for Thanksgiving, I didn't get a chance to watch anything outside of this and X-Men Apocalypse.
And
Jake? Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I didn't watch anything. So Friday Night Film Fest is in Louisville this weekend. They're screening Volumes of Blood and The Wicked One. So we've got friends that are in both of those films.
And you directed a segment?
Yeah, I directed a segment in Volumes of Blood, but we're selling like a couple little discs with some bonus features, and like you and I recorded like an hour-long thing talking about some of the projects we've worked on and behind-the-scenes stuff. So I was like too busy getting all that stuff ready, scrambling. So yeah, Jake's going to carry this entire conversation, which he sounds like he came loaded with some movies.
I did. Well, I've been watching the Trump campaign become the Trump administration. That's been pretty horrifying.
Political right off the top.
Right off the top. Hey, I got a political science degree. I got to use it for
controversy to the podcast.
But all joking aside, I've caught up on Walking Dead as a show of solidarity with William, so that he's not having to take that cheese grater to his dick by himself. I'm right there with him. My favorite episode of that recently was the one where Daryl was just tortured for the entire episode. The only thing that would have made that better if it was Carl or Rick.
And a bunch of fangirls are very upset that
it wasn't
Norman
like in a
Reedus.
sexual way, like the what the hell is that book called?
Oh no, it wasn't 50 Shades.
Yeah, was it 50 Shades of Daryl?
They had him wearing like a baggy ass sweatshirt with like letters on it in yellow that looked like he may have barfed on it. So I was like, it reminded me of 8 Mile with like the mom spaghetti stuff.
Daryl Mile.
Why don't they just start going full fan service with that show anyway? You know, it's like, it's not like it attracts people that are watching it because it's, as William always says, prestige television, you know?
Yeah, just
like,
hardcore fan
just
base.
go for it at this point.
Well,
6 seasons in or how many ever.
Yeah.
The premiere episode had like the second or third highest ratings of the show. and then every episode after the first one is dropped to where now they're down to their lowest points on the rating since like season 3 or something. So I think people are starting to get a little bit tired of what they're doing, but we'll see.
It's really just not that good. It's like just decent enough. It's like just watchable enough for me to continue watching it. But I think I mostly just watch it at this point so I can complain about it. Like it's not like like I said, I told William the other on Friday Wednesday. This is Friday that I really did just like catch up because I kind of felt bad listening to the podcast. Like he was just like, I was like, oh, all right,
Yeah.
William.
So you just pity views.
Yeah, like to a certain degree, and I like to be able to just fight the people.
Well,
who
you got to
love
have
it.
something to back it up. You can't just like read a Wikipedia article.
Exactly. Yeah,
like you
I
know
know everything about it.
To be fair, though, I have read ahead on Wikipedia about what happens in all the comics because I haven't read them. Just because I got bored with
But
the
you're not
show.
you're not pre-bitching about the show yet, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You could guess in the
yourself.
future though.
Like there is like every now and then there are some like some good things that happen on the show, but like I've always contended that the fact that it's 16 episodes and they space it out the way they do, every season they have like 4 episodes you could have easily cut and not lost anything. They just do that to stretch it out.
Oh, don't they bank on like the season opener, the mid-season? What is it?
Yeah, they have a mid-season break, so after it's 16 episodes. So episodes like you have 1 and then 8, and 8's kind of the mid-season break, and they go away for a few months. Then they have the mid-season premiere, which is in like February. And then you have the regular season finale.
So they had like 4 big episodes, and then the rest are just kind of
and
filled.
this year they've had a more than one that was 90 minutes long, so they've kind of stretched them out. And now that 90 minutes is about 61 minutes is actually show. So
have you kept up with it since the beginning, pretty much, or did you like
I
start late and
started
catch up?
watching it like week 1.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people didn't like the first season, but I don't know. There was some, I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was kind of charming in a certain way, I guess. And
it was a little slow for me. That's why I didn't like a lot of the characters. Like they didn't engage me. Mm-hmm. Like it's fine if I'm watching these characters and I really like them and it's slow. Like there's not a lot going on. But I didn't like identify or like the characters. So because not much was happening anyway, it was just like
Well, the one thing
that's
I
why
liked,
I dropped off.
the one thing I liked about season 1 the best was they kind of had a little homage to what was the Will Smith movie in the short story?
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend a little bit because like the guy's wife kept coming back at night and trying to get in the house, which if you read the short story is very similar to that.
Yeah.
And then eventually he killed her.
I did like that.
So
I
like I
remember
liked
that
that part of it, and then after like they got away from that, I just didn't care.
well, the first episode was essentially like a Frank Darabont movie.
Yeah.
And then they had to stretch that budget pretty thin for the remaining episodes. But
yeah, I lost interest.
Do you watch any other horror TV or any TV at all? What shows you keeping up
any
with?
TV at all.
I mean, most of what I watch is just like normal like sitcoms and stuff like that. I am going to give a shout out to the Goldbergs, which I watch, and I am not ashamed to admit that at all, because there's an episode I think it was last season, where the kid was the main character Adam was planning his birthday, and he had this board of birthday ideas, and it was awesome. It was like things that we like horror fans and you guys in particular just hit on all the time. Like he's got like one of the things is like xenomorphs ? It's like like it's got like Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonator, a parade. I think it's like a parade of stormtroopers. It's also like, oh man, this kid is like just like the perfect like 80s nerd kid.
What I always see they do like like specific episodes that are like, oh, here's our action movie episode, like the Schwarzenegger Commando. Mm-hmm. Like, what is that show week to week? Is it a lot of like just fan service? Like, is there more to the story? Like,
they do have it does have like kind of, it's a pretty like family friendly kind of sitcom where it's like, there is a bit of a story that progresses throughout it. But yeah, generally week to week, it's just kind of a theme. Like, a few weeks ago, they did a Breakfast Club episode where all the siblings ended up getting thrown into, with some friends, got thrown into Saturday detention.
So it's like Glee with no singing? Where like every episode is like kind of has a hook to it?
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I've actually
I feel like that'd be hard to keep up after
Yeah, I've been surprised. You know, I thought it looked stupid, and I don't even know why. I was like, I'm just gonna give this show a shot. Oh, I just happened to watch like 5 minutes of it one night, and I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. So I was like, okay, I'll just watch the first episode, and then kind of, I don't know.
What's the dad's name? The guy that plays him?
Oh, Jeff Garland.
Jeff Garland. I was reading about Curb, and he said he had like an out clause for the Goldbergs if Curb came back. Apparently, he had something in his contract where he could just leave that show to go do Curb. I'm pretty sure that's the way I understood it.
Well,
and then they're making the new season, so I don't wonder what's going to happen with that.
It's always funny watching him in the Goldbergs because I watch it because everybody I work with watches it on Hulu at lunch. It's always funny seeing him do the transition from Curb to this because in Curb he's like so ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know, and in this he's like a laid back dad.
He's like getting hand jobs from.
He's just angry dad.
Yeah.
Like, he's angry pantsless dad.
I mean, I don't blame anybody for taking a shift like he's making money. You know what I mean?
But I think it still suits him. It's not like he's like, oh, I don't see him do it. It is a good.
I think they get good performances. But like
I mean, the mom, I loved her from Reno and stuff.
It's funny seeing her in this too.
I never really watched it. I've only seen bits and pieces. I think it was on like when my other job I had, it would be like on where I would like eat lunch and stuff. And I watched bits and pieces, but I didn't hate it, but it was never enough to be like, I'm going to like make, you know what I mean? Like make time to watch this. So I just never have.
Yeah. It's not like a prestige television show of any sort, but I like it. So,
and you said you saw something for Halloween, right?
Yeah,
that we neglected to see.
We will do at some point
because we watched. What did we see instead that week?
Ouija.
Yeah,
Origin of Evil.
So I made the other decision. I took the other pill.
Probably the right one, actually.
Saw Boo, a Madea Halloween. I was, let's just say I wasn't sober when I went and saw it. I wasn't drunk either.
Is it legal in Ohio now?
It's medical is technically legal. So it's been actually Ohio is the first state to decriminalize.
Yeah, Jake's from Louisville, but he's living in Cincinnati now, down for the weekend. So that's why we made this special podcast just for him.
And he's gonna be in that new X-Men film. So
yeah, X-Men 32. So it was pretty much exactly how it's been described in like critical reviews. It's basically just like a long form of a Halloween episode of a TV show. That being said,
some of the I guess negative things I've heard about it was that there was a lot of like extended scenes of seeming like it was just them riffing or whatever, and not like a lot of the horror hooks or scary monster things. Like, so how was the pacing of it?
Yeah, it did kind of. There were parts that drug, but when it was hitting and funny, it was really really funny.
Yeah.
But then there were like lulls in between. We're like, okay, this is awful. But what was nice about that was, I mean, I went and saw it in the theater on a discount Tuesday.
Ooh.
And so there was a pretty nice sized crowd, and I think it was a week or two before Halloween. And that's what actually I think made the movie for me was the crowd. There was a kid a couple seats down from me that just losing his mind the entire movie, even at things that weren't funny, like just like Madea like walking through it. He's just like
I mean, it's Tyler Perry wearing a dress. Like what more do you want?
I mean, he was probably like 9 to 12. I can't tell children's ages, and it was a dark movie theater, but he was loving it, and so that was kind of doing it.
You should probably when that comes out on DVD and Blu-ray, you should do a fan edit where you take out all the boring stuff and then make a really good like 40-minute Madea movie.
And then do some reshoot scenes and add stuff in.
Yeah, like some more monster effects and like make it R-rated.
It's like I didn't realize there was a Medea 3-way sex scene.
I'm just gonna cut in like parts of Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yes, yeah.
True Bulgarian Maybach.
Too bad. He's not still around. They could have done a crossover movie.
Man,
you know,
Ernest
imagine that.
Medina. Oh,
I mean,
Jim Varney come back from the dead.
I mean, Jaleel White's still around, right? You can do a Family Matters crossover with Urkel and
That'd be
Medea.
pretty awesome.
Did I do that? Oh hell no!
We gotta get the dad too, though.
Oh yeah,
Carl Winslow.
Yeah, you gotta get him. Yeah.
or Reginald.
Bill Johnson.
Yeah,
Was that his Die Hard name?
his real name, Derek.
Real name.
No, his Die Hard name.
Honestly, when you started saying the name, that's what I was thinking of too at first.
It's like
Because it's Christmas. I'm thinking of Die Hard. You know, he was an officer. Yeah.
He could have
Yeah.
been the same guy.
Yeah.
So in Madea, the Boo. So were all of the like horrific moments stuff that was in the trailer? Because I read some people said there wasn't much beyond the trailer for horror stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. And it wasn't like I said, it almost felt more like a
TV movie?
like a TV movie with like a message.
Yeah.
Because there did end up being like a greater message at the end sort of thing with the daughter and her sneaking out to do all this stuff and blah blah blah. There's a big Tyler Perry is the character he plays not as Madea. I can't remember. It's been a month.
Is he the lawyer from Gone Girl? He just like shows
No,
up.
it's Alex Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Alex Cross. But he's, giving a soliloquy basically, or I guess it wouldn't be a soliloquy, but he's just giving this speech to everyone about raising his daughters and and how he's not tough enough on them and blah, blah, blah. And it's
So
nice.
did you walk out there feeling like you learned something?
No,
No.
not
That's
really.
disappointing.
But it was I don't know. It still wasn't. It wasn't totally unenjoyable. It just wasn't, I was hoping for it to be more like Ernest Scared Stupid.
I think that's what a lot of people are hoping because of the tone of the trailer.
That's
that's what they
yeah.
sold, which was smart on their end, and the poster and everything.
Yeah.
I wish they would have went further with that because it honestly could have like reached even a wider demographic
Oh,
and
yeah.
been
But-
like a really big
if
cult
it had-
hit.
But as
You
it is,
know?
it made a ton of money.
Yeah, yeah,
so-
no,
Did
yeah.
it make?
I think it's the second highest grossing Madea film. Let me look.
But this is one that could have found like a long life in as far as like horror fans go.
I would have liked it.
Yeah.
Honestly, if it had kind of like the same goofy, premise, like troll thing. Like,
yeah.
Sort some sort of
more of a supernatural
supernatural
bent to it.
presence.
Yeah.
So-
Because there is no supernatural
Yeah, okay.
presence in it.
So
That's what I was thinking that was
Yeah.
So in the U.S. so far, it's made over 70 million. So it's like 72 million.
And-
So on a pretty relatively modest budget and a movie, it seemed like it didn't take them a ton of time to shoot. So like,
Well, that's why there's been
And I may have brought
more
this
than
up.
10.
Was it like 2 weeks or something that they?
well, like the IMDb
yeah.
trivia said they shot it in 5 days, but I don't.
Yeah.
There's no substantiation, and I think that's almost
You think,
logistically
Jake?
impossible.
It couldn't have taken that long. Like, it couldn't have taken I'm not saying it couldn't have taken 5 days. It could have absolutely taken
But-
5
but
days.
they-
I would
they
say
could have got it
between
done.
5 days and 2 weeks.
But
would
you said
absolutely
but 5 days, it was like, oh, okay,
most
that's
most
believable.
TV shows like Breaking Bad or Mad Men or whatever, they shoot them in like 11 days for like the hour long like
Yeah.
dramas. So I could definitely see them. I have not seen it, just based on what I've read, like them shooting on that type of timetable.
Well,
especially
too,
if they do like
he
extended.
does a lot of theater, so you
Yeah.
could see them planning it. You know what I mean? Getting things rehearsed, doing it, and then saying, "Okay, here's 5 days.
And,
Let's
you
go
know,
through this
another
play."
thing is, like,
you
a lot
know,
of those actors in the Madea movies all do TV shows together. It's like the same group of core.
Well, this one
Yeah,
too.
there's a
This
lot
one
of
had some YouTube stars, didn't it? From what I remember reading, like some of the younger
it did.
kids.
It had a lot, but I didn't know who they were.
But like his core group, like usually the adults are all like the Madea family is like all in different TV shows and TBS, and they all do stuff together all the time. So it's not like they're
I think this was also on the trivia, and we may have brought it up where Tyler Perry got the idea after seeing Chris Rock's Top 5. And have you seen that movie? Mm-mm. It's really good, actually. Chris Rock and Rosario Dawson, she's like a reporter, and Chris Rock is essentially Chris Rock. He's like a comedian. They go to a movie together, and they come out, and I think the movie they had saw was a like a Tyler Perry like Halloween movie, and they're talking about it or something like that. And apparently, he got the idea for Medea's Halloween from that, and then just fucking made the movie.
Nice, that's awesome.
but it's like
That's even better.
but like
Yeah.
the Madea
It's like,
movies
thanks,
for
Chris
them
Rock.
have been
Slam
almost
dunk.
like the $10 to $20 million budget, and they make money. So as long
Well,
as
yeah,
they
if you-
keep
if
there's
you-
been one or two that clunked out, but most of them make decent money. So they
Like the
can
only
make it easy.
downside is like they're modestly budgeted movies, which you don't see happen that often, aside from really horror. But horror typically keeps it under like 10.
Yeah.
But like those $10 to $30 million movies, or like that budget range is what you got during the 80s and 90s and 70s and 60s. And today you don't really have that happen. But I think Tyler Perry is able to do it because he has a brand and it's
Yeah, he
it's
does.
a proven moneymaker. But I wish more movies in that budget range could be made.
I mean, he's very smart.
I mean, think
for
about it, like
everything.
he did all the plays and he got the movies, and then he dominated TBS's like TV shows for years. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but almost every TBS show was his.
Yeah.
You know, so how much money did he make off of, you know, a 5-year period? You know,
And then I think Fincher, when he cast him in Gone Girl, Fincher did not know who Tyler Perry was. He had no idea
No, I think
of
it was-
his past history
Well, I think it
and
was-
the context he was bringing to that film.
Wasn't it the
right?
reverse though, where Tyler Perry didn't know?
Oh, yes. No, you're right. You're right.
Tyler Perry was not
He didn't know
acquainted
who
with
Fincher was. Yeah, which is even worse. Really.
or the source material either.
Yeah.
But then like I think that's one of the better
Source
roles
material.
he's done.
Yeah.
So
All right, so enough of Tyler
Madea.
Perry.
Tyler Perry.
Unless you have anything else to say about Madea.
Nope. I'm good.
Recommend it when it comes to
If you, yeah,
if it's free streaming or
don't pay for it.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it's made its money.
you watch it via a streaming service legally.
It's made its money. But if it's on a streaming service, absolutely.
Yeah.
Check it out. I also watched Psycho. Or rewatched Psycho. I guess. I mean, I saw it as a teenager.
Oh wow, so it's been a while.
It's
huh?
been a
Yeah.
long time, and I forgot. Anthony Perkins is so awesome in that. Like he is like, I mean, just above and beyond awesome in that movie. I love the scene where he and Janet Leigh are sitting in that back room in the like the office where
Yeah.
he's got all the
The
taxi
birds and stuff, yeah.
And it's like before that, it's like, oh, this guy just seems like a real nice fella.
And then-
nice, handsome young man. He's just helping this lady with her bags and stuff. And then they're sitting there talking with all these taxidermied birds everywhere. And you're like, oh, this guy is insane.
Yeah, thanks.
It's like he just flips the switch.
I also love the scene with him and I can't remember who it was, but essentially he's coming to question him about
the detective.
Janet Leigh staying there and like
yeah.
looking at the booklet of the log or whatever. Like I just remember loving that scene. Just his performance in that scene too. Like
him-
not that anything like big went on, but it was just like a great.
well, he was
scene.
Yeah.
really believable in that, you know, as opposed to like the Vince Vaughn was just
Vince Vaughn was really miscast for that.
That was-
Yeah.
He's miscast in about everything he does.
like True Detective season 2.
If it's not him being like basically the Vince Vaughn
Wedding Crashers.
yeah, like that character. Like
Yeah, Dodgeball
old school-
and Wedding
Yeah,
Crashers.
Dodgeball was like his masterpiece,
Yeah.
probably.
Like if he's not being what I imagine
old
is
school.
like the
Yeah.
the overblown version of just himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to break that barrier, I think, of like Jim Carrey and all that, you know, but
Later
I don't
career,
really
like, I
honestly
gotta-
like him that much in comedic stuff. Like Dodgeball, I think's okay.
I like
he's
Dodgeball.
not a
Ben
strong
Stiller
part in it
was-
for me. I
Ben
like
Stiller,
Wedding
yeah.
Crashers okay, but again, like he kind of actively pushes me away from things I might normally see.
Well, I think on Dodgeball too, like Ben Stiller's character was so awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
it
that's just that
kinda-
everything around that is
Yeah.
good. He's fine. He's serviceable, but he doesn't draw me.
Johnny loves Chachi.
Yeah, because I just love that stupid. Yeah, it makes no sense. He just runs by the screen, says it, and runs off.
Ben Stiller. Very hit or miss with me. I like
Oh yeah,
that,
Ben
though.
Stiller's really
liked
hit and
him.
miss. I like him. But
I mean, I think I love the Cable guy, you know,
Yeah.
as far as directing goes. And Tropic Thunder was a great premise and a pretty good movie, you know.
but
I like him Tenenbaums.
yeah,
Yeah,
but Ben Stiller's like one of those actors I want to like a lot, and I watch a lot of the stuff. And I was like, man.
Yeah.
Like, I want to like Ben Stiller because he does a lot of stuff, but then he does like Ninth Museum, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
mean,
and
that's,
6.
you
And it's
know,
like, eh.
That's the pay the
making
bills
money,
work.
Yeah, that's the pay the bills work.
Yeah.
But it's like, but then he does something like Dodgeball where he's so ridiculous, and it's like, you know, you like stuff like that. And
Yeah.
Heavyweights.
Zoolander.
Zoolander. I hate Zoolander.
Zoolander, yeah.
Man, I've tried to like that movie, and like even I know there are things I find funny in it, but it just overall I hate Ben Stiller in it, and I hate Owen Wilson in
Wow,
it.
See,
yeah.
but I
Which,
like
and I usually like Owen Wilson.
I saw that in
early.
theaters when it came out and was on board since then.
Right on. I'm not
Yeah.
knocking people
Yeah.
for liking it. It's just never been my
another
thing.
Stiller Wilson movie I like is Starsky and Hutch. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good.
I like.
But I'm glad they never like revisited it and tried to do like a 2 or something.
Yeah, that was a one shot.
My mom says I can't handle the horsepower. Like, I just love that part. Like Vince Vaughn was good in that. That was another movie that Vince Vaughn in.
So what did you think about Psycho as far as like, you know, its
mean,
lineages of being like one of the greatest horror films of all
I
time?
mean, it's great. It's fantastic. I mean,
yeah.
it's just Hitchcock. Hitchcock
Yeah.
was great. Like he set the stage for so much.
I mean, I always think about too, like when we think doing projects of our own, like obviously I'm not thinking on Hitchcock's level at all, but he was like deathly ill one day and they were shooting the scene So the first person I think that gets murdered in the house, the guy that walks up the stairs and he gets stabbed and then falls down on him. Apparently he was deathly ill, so he wasn't going to be able to shoot that scene of him like going up the stairs or whatever. And the assistant director or whoever directed that scene, and he came back and watched the dailies, and he's like, no. They were getting like tight shots of his feet walking up and a tight shot of his hand opening the door. He's like, no, that's how you would shoot a killer going to some place.
Right.
You know, not the victim.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Just like his mind, like he just immediately, and everybody around him was not able to
figure
even
that
just
out,
get a basic, you know, going up the stairs thing the way he would want to do it, which is, you know, just his attention to detail. And he makes everything seem like effortless.
Yeah.
You know, everything he does.
That's just in his, he just has such a different body of work, and it's all, they're all mostly like what you would call like mysteries or thrillers.
Yeah.
None of them are just straight horror, but they, like, so many of them are, they're horror movies.
Macabre too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Psycho, really, it's a thriller, but it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just,
it was the most terrifying film at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
The Birds.
Yeah.
The Birds, that's a horror movie.
I haven't watched that in a long time. That's the
The
one that I
Birds.
haven't revisited as much.
The Birds is fun to watch.
It's just, the Birds are just kind of, it's like almost like a monster movie,
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
But
I
with
mean,
birds.
Probably saw that when I was like 20 last time.
Gross.
Then there's
birds.
Birdemic, Shock and Terror. That's the the movie where they use like some preset PlayStation 1 graphics versions of birds just fluttering around.
So any other
Just real quick, I
Thing
know you guys covered it a few weeks ago or month or whatever. Watched Green Room,
yeah.
which has something in common with our film today.
Yeah.
And that, Patrick Stewart is in both of them.
Was that your first time seeing it?
Peace, dude.
Yeah, Green Room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
man.
pretty good. It's one of the better films this year, I
Yeah,
think, as
I
far
like-
as genre. of
I
films
liked
go.
it a lot,
Yeah.
and it was brutal,
Yeah, it's
man.
brutal.
I liked that.
I mean, it
and-
has some edge to it. Thank
And
God it
does
has
make
like
you
guts.
like kind of on edge.
Yeah.
A lot of it, you know.
Oh,
and-
I was like on, on the like edge of my seat. I had like a pillow in my lap, like just clutching it. Like, man, this is awesomely intense.
Because I think, like, with a lot of the people I used to hang out with, not that we're ever in places like that, but a lot of my friends were in bands and stuff, and you would go to little shitty venues.
Yeah.
And you could definitely
You don't
see,
know
like,
who the
stuff-
owners were. Like,
Yeah, you
who,
could definitely
who is like
understand
putting
stuff.
money in this? Like, what kind
Yeah.
of, you know, these shithole places? I took my parents to see that when I saw it, and
Yeah.
they enjoyed it.
Well, it's funny because me and William were in there, and there was, remember the two old ladies that came in?
Yeah.
And, like, as soon as Patrick Stewart showed up and he's bad, they're like, and everybody started getting sliced up and terrible things happened, they just left.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, maybe
It's like I've been to a few movies. Like when I saw the Blair Witch Project, I think I've mentioned it, or the Blair Witch, the recent one. There was like a family with like 8 kids that came in speaking like Farsi, talking through the entire movie. And I was like, did they understand what this was? And then they left like the second that that something started happening that was scary, they just left. And I was like, if you have like 8 people, you just spent like $100 to leave.
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice that Patrick Stewart looked a lot like Bryan Cranston?
Yeah,
on
with his hat and his attire. Yeah.
He looked like Walter White.
He was
Like,
Heisenberging.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart.
It's interesting. A film about those white nationalists came out
Oh, man.
earlier this year. You know, it's
I
like
think that might be what put me more on edge about watching it last night. It's like,
I'm sure it's probably more impactful now than it was in March.
There's
or
a
whatever.
vocal minority of people online that represent views similar to those of the characters in that film. And don't search it down on the internet because it's terrible, and you'll get made fun of by them if you say anything. But the fact that there are still people that like it's not unrealistic in that film. Like there are people like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that convention that was just in D.C. with people were literally doing Nazi salutes at the convention. Did you see that? Was it who did that?
It was Tila Tequila, former.
Well, no. This
star
is
and-
William. This was a conference in Washington D.C.
She was at it. Yeah, it was a conference. There was only 200 people there.
it's
Only 200 Nazis.
Yeah.
yeah, it was some leader of the alt right.
Yeah.
I can't, the quote unquote alt.
But yeah, I mean that film I think is even more. I feel like people in like 5 years, people will think, "Oh, this was made after
it's
all these
kinda-
white
I
nationalists."
just want to
became,
see the people who
empowered.
watch that and like, you know what? Like, I really side with the Patrick Stewart's character.
I like that it's not too. It's not. This isn't a film where it's like an Indiana Jones where like let's fight Nazis. They're the bad guys. It's just kind of very like you see these things and you kind of know like in the club when they're playing that they're white supremacists a little bit, but then there's like all these things like everybody that wears red shoelaces. Well, you know what I mean? It's like there's all these little things you're just watching and you're like, oh man, this is like an organized thing.
Yeah. Well, that was I guess going to like, you know, being into punk rock and metal and stuff when we were teenagers, going to shows and stuff. Like I remember you'd go to shows and see skinheads. You'd go to shows and see like you would see those people at, you know, these metal and punk shows.
Honestly, at the time, like being a dumb kid, you just think, oh, there's skinheads here. Yeah. Cool. Like this is you know what I mean? Like this is edgy. Like and not that they were cool, but like you were in that environment. But now it's like terrifying.
It's like
no, I don't.
Element of danger.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and it's like I don't know.
And those are probably a lot of the guys like you walk up and talk to you, and you'd be like, "Hey, you talk to him?" Just she's like, "Yeah, I don't really want."
I mean, you know, I remember like some being around and them being fine, but I didn't get the context of like. I just knew like, oh, skinheads. They're like
I would say
not
a lot
good people, but other than that, like I didn't know it was super about racism a lot of
I would
times.
venture
You know,
to guess
like
that a lot of people who do that don't get the full context of what it is.
Yeah.
They just like the aesthetic of it. Maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that's what a lot of younger people around here were doing too.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely.
Didn't help.
Jake and I went to middle school together. That's what he's referring
And
to.
then we all went to the same high school.
Yeah.
And then Derek went to that same high school after we had all graduated.
I was thinking.
Now
Actually,
we're all in the same room.
They're all in the same room.
here we are.
I was actually on the wrestling team with Jake for 1 week. When I was in
that's
8th grade.
right. When you were in 8th grade.
Yeah, I showed up and I
was
tried
a
to
senior.
run a lap and I couldn't do it, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. And then I eventually got on it like 2 years later, but
I forgot about a lap.
yeah.
After I retired.
Anything? I went to one of your wrestling matches. I think I went to the first one that you won, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I showed up with the girl you were dating at the time. Oh, because you invited her, and then I was.
Yeah,
dating her
that
best
was the
friend.
first match
I was
I
dating
ever
her
won,
best
yeah.
friend, so we
Yeah,
all went to
that's
support
right.
you. I was like, go Jake.
That's awesome, yeah.
Well, apparently Jake was involved in a bunch of stories that like I was still heard about when I was on the team because I had the same coach as he did.
Man, well, you know.
Jake did not give a shit from a lot of stuff I heard. About.
What's let's just give it.
One of the stories I heard is like the bus had broke. Y'all were on a bus or something. You just had to go take a piss, so you just like got off the bus on the highway or something.
That wasn't me. How are these stories getting? That's all Chris Sullivan.
Oh, okay, because I was told that was you. Like the bus, y'all were just going like the bus stops, and like somebody got off, or you got off.
Did you hear another one about me eating a chili dog off the floor? Okay, that wasn't me. That was Chris Sullivan. I watched that happen. It was hilarious. He smacked Jeremy McGinney's chili dog onto the floor, and then 5 minutes later picked it up and ate the entire thing in one bite. It was gross.
You know, I worked with another wrestler at Mike Lenning's. Gary, and he would always eat stuff off the floor too for money. I don't know, was that a thing or something? Like,
yeah,
he would literally eat the fish juice, like the old gunk in the floor. We would get it in a cup and be like, okay, $5, and he'd be like, all right, and he would just down it.
We were the gross sports team.
Yeah.
Like I think every school has probably like the weirdo sport. And even though a lot of the people on the wrestling team did other things, like we had a lot of football players.
Yeah, a lot of football players.
And a lot of us did track in the spring to keep in shape for the other sports or whatever. But we were just like the gross team because so much about wrestling is gross. You're just running around.
I mean, you're sticking your finger up people's butts.
Yeah,
Leotards,
grabbing each other's balls.
Well,
and stuff.
that tradition was still there when I was there, so everybody's so really gross. We had a guy named Fat Lawrence is on the team, and he had a shirt that was like a smiley face tie dye, so we cut it off. Right underneath his man boobs and then tied it up so they wouldn't fall out. Nice. And like he would, like when you did practice, you'd probably lose like 5 or 10 pounds of water weight.
Yeah.
This guy would eat the entire time underneath the bleachers on the track and gain like 5 or 10 pounds by the time he weighed out.
He was building mass there.
He was bulking up.
He's in a bulking
And like
phase.
the wrestling room, just because it's different now, but it used to be like essentially like a little trailer.
Yeah.
So this guy Lawrence is so fat when he would hit it, it would like shake the entire like foundation of the building. But I think they've upgraded since then. But
Well, that's good for them.
yeah,
I liked it when it was grimy.
yeah, it was very grimy.
Well, I guess that's about all I've really watched horror-wise and Goldberg's wise.
And not Bill Goldberg,
not Bill Goldberg.
Of wrestling fame.
And he just beat Brock Lesnar in a match that people got mad about.
So I guess now we can move into our discussion of the 1985 movie Lifeforce, which, as we mentioned, is directed by Tobe Hooper. So it's not mentioned in the same breath as his other films like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Poltergeist. but this came out after Poltergeist, so he was a huge name in the horror world at the
I didn't
time.
know he directed the first Poltergeist.
Well, there's arguments about how much him versus Spielberg, but
I did not know he.
But he also directed The Funhouse and
I've watched that.
Texas Chainsaw
Wait a
2.
minute, the Funhouse, is that the one where the kids sneak into the Funhouse after it's closed and everybody, or
There's like the werewolf mask, Frankenstein guy.
Because there's also another one that's like similar to that I've
Speaking
watched
of
too.
Texas Chainsaw 2, after he did Poltergeist, that's when I think I was reading like trivia. Canon, I guess, signed him on for a 3-film deal.
Yeah.
And it was this,
Texas Chainsaw 2.
Texas Chainsaw 2, and what else?
I don't remember.
I can't remember, but
I still love the scene in Texas Chainsaw 2 with the chainsaw and he's like outside just hitting and the old guy's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just such a
a lot of sexual undertones in
Yeah.
that movie in this one. Well, they're not really undertones in this one, but
So we'll for this one we do full spoilers throughout. I mean, like once again, a lot of these movies it's kind of hard to spoil this one. Like you could know every single plot beat and still watch it and not lose anything. I would
there were
think.
2 good little twists, I think. There was one pretty good. It wasn't a twist. It was just something that caught me off guard. That it seemed like it was playing straight the whole time. But other than that, yeah, it doesn't matter.
And just the basic synopsis is it's a race of space vampires arrive in London and infect the populace.
I love how like a lot of times on MBD there's at least like a little small paragraph and that's literally like one sentence.
Well, a lot of them are just like one sentence stuff.
Some of the
But,
stuff I've seen is like a paragraph.
but two's like Patrick Stewart's in this film. And when you see him, you're like, oh, shit, that's Patrick Stewart. Then there's a really weird scene with him.
On the trivia, too, it was his first on-screen kiss.
Is it really?
And it's with, I guess, the lead male actor.
yeah.
Yeah, it's with
awesome.
it's with Steve Railsback, Carlson. Like, I guess we can just kind of go through it like chronologically. So, like, the opening stuff in the spaceship is kind of reminiscent of like that era of like Aliens and stuff like that. And the beginning I thought was really effective and creepy because they find the ship and then they find these kind of weird looking
Only the
creatures.
set looks like a 50s B movie.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's
the
not-
thing. It's like, this is 85. This is
Yep.
post-Alien,
Yep.
Aliens.
Well, Dano
and Dano Banner wrote Alien.
And
Yeah,
he wrote.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He wrote this and Alien. So that's what my connection, like, I kept thinking about Alien.
Pre-Aliens.
And like
yeah, okay.
one thing I like was they find the like humanoids in like little
Pods.
crystal pods. Like for some reason I saw this before the podcast. This just reminded me of like Superman and like the people of Zod for
Like
some reason.
Zod and his
Like it just
followers.
for a second it reminded me of that and then that was gone.
Yeah, so this this came out in the era. So you had Alien. I think this was before Aliens because Aliens was 86.
Yeah, it came out the year before.
So you had Alien. You had all 3 Star Wars films have been released by this point. You had some other sci-fi stuff. You had The Thing had came out. So this like had a estimated budget of $25 million, which when you adjust for inflation is a pretty decent budget for the kind of premise that it is. But a lot of the effects kind of look cheesy.
Well, no, I think
Well, parts of like the
I mean, they definitely don't look realistic, but they have a cool style to them. Like it even looks like Dan O'Bannon's Return of the Living Dead. All the zombies and stuff. Like it was that same style of almost animatronic figures, which I actually think's appealing.
Well, yeah, the zombie type things were cool looking and kind
Yeah.
of creepy.
I like the. There's a scene that I really liked that where I thought like the effects looked pretty good. I really like the scene with the where the lady that they found dead in the park, and they have her on the operating table, and she like they watch her like body like flip out.
Yeah.
Like that scene's pretty. It looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all practical, practical effects and animatronics. And I thought that actually looked like.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because, like I said, I like the style of effects, but at the same, and it kind of fits the style of the whole movie. Like these effects wouldn't be in place in maybe like Alien, but it works in this. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they don't look super realistic, but they just have a look to them that I kind of like.
Well, too, like I said, I guess we'll just do this somewhat chronologically, instead of jumping around a bunch. So you have, like kind of the opening stuff, like on the ship, that apparently too, like the director's cut that Toby Hooper did had more stuff in that part than the theatrical cut, because that was where they trimmed things out to get the runtime down.
Okay.
So like the beginning part, I think is effective, and then you kind of shift gears a little bit into like the, like you get to the Earth stuff, and you have like the like psychiatric stuff and Patrick Stewart's character and all that.
For me, the opening scene too, which I think I had heard that to get the composer on board, whoever did it, which I guess they mixed up the score for the American version and the
It's Henry Mancini.
Okay, I think in order to get him on board, they said that they were going to do a long opening, like a space opera opening, and let him compose this thing.
Yeah.
But for me, it was kind of cool, but it was a little bit long. Like it started losing me, but then when they got to Earth and shit started happening, that's when I was like back on board with it.
See, I actually like that element to it a little bit. I didn't think that drug too long. It's not like Star Trek 1, where it's just like, oh, this is Star Trek, a space odyssey, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh gosh, this is so boring. Cut like 45 minutes out of this, please. But it was, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like that element of it. I thought that that's actually some of the better looking like special effects in the movie are.
There are
space
there are
scenes,
some
like
good- yeah.
the Churchill floating around, and I mean the comet, you know, could look cooler, but it wasn't like the comet and the ship and stuff for the mid '80s.
I think all the stuff looking at the outside space was good.
Yeah.
It was the inside stuff.
Yeah.
For me, that was like, okay, this feels like it's a B movie, you know, from the 50s.
Like when you compare, like when they found the kind of like bird bat things, like in the ship. If you compare that to the Alien, which was, you know, from years earlier on a lower budget, like the space jockey and that stuff. When they found that was far more effective, but that was also like the combination of how they shot it and the type of things they did,
and just the overall atmosphere, probably.
But this was, you know, a similar kind of vibe that I got a little bit. But
yeah, and I think you could have done. They could have done better with the effects on that scene, definitely at the time, but I don't think it was like anywhere. I don't think it was anywhere like near bad for the time.
It's a weird thing too, because you don't know how much of it falls on the shoulders of Toby Hooper.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he had money for it. If the budget if the budget was actually $25 million, you know, I kind of question that, being from Canon. I could almost see them like, it does seem like this movie costs some money, more than a lot of Canon films.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't know if they bump that number up to act like, oh, this is like a bigger budget than Alien, and you know,
the Canon Films deal with Toby Hooper didn't work out too well, since this movie was a bomb and Texas Chainsaw 2 didn't make its money back.
Yeah.
So it probably did like through its course of its life,
through the course of the run of that film,
I mean,
Texas Chainsaw 2, I'm assuming, has to be pretty profitable. But at the time it came out, it wasn't a huge moneymaker.
The thing, and what I was saying was, you know, you don't know how much it falls on, you know, their heads as far as organization or what producers they had on board for this.
Right.
That could have really hurt Toby Hooper, but also, was this the tone he was going for? You know, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 at the time, like, that was a comedy more than anything. So, and not that this was a straight out comedy, but maybe he was going for that. I feel like he was kind of leaning into that 50s movie vibe with this.
Well, too, like when
I
you
can see
have,
that.
I could definitely see that for sure.
Given
the amount of nudity too.
when you have the character known only as Space Girl walking around nude for the entirety of the film, like they couldn't have been trying to be super serious.
She was clothed towards the end.
the end she was
when
clothed.
she stole
at
the clothes and
but a large portion of it is her just walking around naked, is what everybody remembers.
Apparently, maybe this was the original version. Maybe it was the original one, because I saw something on the trivia that said she only had 7 minutes of screen time. But maybe that was before they cut out a lot of the nudity for the American release.
yeah, I mean, that 7 minutes overall probably sounds about right for her.
I feel like it's close.
Most of the movie is like Dr. What's it, Ferrata or Ferlata?
Which is a shame.
Ferlata?
She should have been in there more, man.
Yeah, there's
when she changes bodies part of the way through, and I'm like, oh no, why did she change bodies?
there's
I mean, no knock against this other girl.
Yeah.
So like the focus changes to like Carlson, Colonel Carlson, Colonel Kane, and Dr. Hans Fallada. Then you have Patrick Stewart as Dr. Armstrong. And then talking like the body shifting stuff, like the most ridiculous scene to me in the movie is when she is possessed, Patrick Stewart's character, and then he's pulling in Carlson, or Carlson's being drawn, and then he's like trying to get her to stop, and then he kisses Patrick Stewart on the mouth.
But, I mean, that kind of, I feel like it deals with the whole issue of vampires being this kind of like, almost these bisexual beings, because, and not that vampires kiss people, but just the thought of,
what they do is like so intimate.
Like if I was a
vampire.
vampire and you were here and I had to get blood and there was a chick, I would obviously go for her every time. But vampires do take male victims. Their body, it's like a sensual thing on the neck.
Absolutely.
So I feel like this kind of tackles that element head on,
But
more
it's just
so
the
because it is
hilarious-
such a sexual.
The
movie.
hilarious image of a guy being like slowly drawn to Patrick Stewart's face and mouth. He's like, no.
Patrick Stewart's like, this is my first on-screen kiss. I got to get this right.
I'm gonna kiss the hell out of this dude.
And so we can back up too, and I guess the premise is they find these beings in their ship, and there's a lot of like vampire-looking or bat-looking creatures. They find these 3 beings.
And it's a 150-mile long ship in the tail of Halley's Comet. Let's not
Yeah.
Yes, which it was like a year before Halley's passed, I guess, the orbit.
It inspired Heaven's Gate cult.
That was
not
a different
really.
comet.
I know. I'm just saying they saw
That
this
was Hale
movie.
Bop.
They saw
So-
this movie, and then
So what
I don't
happens
know,
on the
making it
ship
up.
then is, or do we really know? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I was
they
kind of
end up-
falling asleep because it was late last night. But
So they go and they bring the 3 crystal palaces.
Yeah.
The 3 crystal cubes with the nude people in them.
and they're like, keep those guys over there. They're dudes.
Yeah,
but this
well,
chick, let's lay her on the table.
And so they get back, and you can see when they get back to the Churchill, like already there's obviously some sort of weird thing
Sexual
happening.
energy happening.
to the crew.
Even when the one guy sees her at first,
Yeah,
you know,
he's just like,
I feel like
she's
his suit was
perfect.
like filling up at the time, you know?
what's that?
with blood.
What's that token in
You
his
just
suit?
see it like splat across the front of his helmet.
His orgone is just releasing everywhere. Wilhelm Reich. It's a Wilhelm Reich
So essentially,
movie.
these space vampires, they take the life force out of people.
Yeah.
So they kiss them on the mouth or like suck the life force out, and they turn them into these Return of the Living Dead like corpses. 2 hours later, those corpses come alive, try to get somebody else to feed off of them. That is only the people that the original 3 though can transfer their spirit or their life force to other
Bodies.
vestiges,
Yes.
essentially. But they also, when she does that, she keeps hers like, I guess, hidden, much like Dracula hides when he sleeps in his coffin. You know, the same type of deal with that. So that's basically the premise is they're going around sucking the life force out of people
And so-
creating an epidemic, like a zombie-like thing.
And like, I guess where so they go and they bring these onto the Churchill, and then it cuts, and you don't. It says 30 days later, and you just see the space shuttle floating through space, and it goes to the ground, and that's where you pick up Falada and a bunch of the other characters, and that's where they start driving the story
In London, right?
in London
Yeah.
at the European
England.
Space Agency or whatever it is, and they basically the Churchill's been burned out, and the only things on the Churchill that survived were the 3 crystal coffins or whatever, and so they
The 3
bring
Abercrombie and Fitch models.
the 3 Abercrombie and Fitch models exactly in their display.
only $89.99.
So there's like a mystery. They don't know where he's. All the crew members are dead. It's
Except-
burned out.
Except for Carlson.
Escape. They couldn't
But they don't know
identify
he's- yes.
anyone, but the escape pod has been jettisoned. And they get back to London, and they've got the cases, and all this stuff starts popping off with the life force drainings and whatnot. And
And they find things. It's not one of those films where it's like they're too dumb. They're almost too smart where they assume things and figure things out
Yeah.
right away. They just like give the audience the information they need to know about what's happening.
it appears he's draining the life force right out of him. He's got a cigarette lit. Like, I've never felt something so intense in my entire life.
and two, like, you know, all this stuff starts happening, like, you know, everybody's getting infected and all this stuff spreading. And then this is like, I would have to look historically, but this is one of the earliest movies I can remember that had the blue light beaming into the sky thing at the end,
Yeah.
which every action film since then has done, like Avengers and Suicide Squad. Like all these movies have like these beams shooting into
I mean,
the sky.
Ghostbusters was
I was gonna say Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters,
84,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, Ghostbusters was probably.
So I'm a dummy.
You are dumb.
But so that trope was developed in the 80s, if not earlier. I have to go back and look, but it's been something that modern movies really overuse.
Oh yeah, dude.
And you know, like at least between like this and Ghostbusters, it's a completely different type of premise. Like they were just sucking souls and sending them up to their ship. And you know, there's all the body switching stuff, and there's the part where Carlson and Kane go to like the nurse's house, and he's like, "She's a masochist. She wants
Man,
this."
that scene too. That starts taking a turn there. So, and she has, she's in the Institute for the Criminally Insane, right?
But she's a nurse there.
Yeah.
Oh, she's
That's
a nurse.
her
Okay, so I got. I
apartment.
missed
So
that.
then he rips off like her jacket or cardigan or whatever it is.
Wait, before that though, he can kind of detect what's going on, and he says she wants me to get rough with her to get the information out. And then he says to his friend or whatever,
Kane, he's like,
you may want to leave for this. And he said, no. What did he say? I'm a professional voyeur or something?
I'm a professional voyeur. Yeah, he just crosses his legs all creepy on the couch like,
Like, let's get this started.
let's do this.
And then, like you said, they pull like, you see like the reveal of like her back, and there's like cuts on it and stuff. So it's like, oh, she actually is. And then too, they have like the
There's a Bowie poster in her room too.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's also like, him being, bisexual, like being, I feel like there's some correlation there. Maybe
sexuality
not,
is fluid in the
Yes,
Lifeforce
exactly,
universe. And then
he is the all-seeing Lifeforce, is David Bowie, who walks among us, or he did.
and then you have like Dr. Falada being kind of like Van Helsing with like that sword thing that's like
That is I actually made a note about this in my notes. Is that something I think they really missed on in this movie? Was they either should have totally taken out that element of the mythical vampire thing, or really
Embraced it.
expand
like
that,
like they
expand
were
it
beings from another place or
that
something.
these are
Yeah,
what
that's a
the
good idea.
Yeah, that the vampires from myth. Because
That's a good
it's just
idea.
kind of like something that Falada just kind of throws out there. He's like,
And where did he get that from?
I know,
From
like, where
eBay.
did he, like,
it says like 1886 on it or something, and it's like he suddenly has
like,
this
I just had this in my
spear in this case in his office.
It's like this giant, like, weird sword thing. Like, he should have been like more of like a less serious doctor, because he has this giant weird sword that he's just like, oh yeah, it's forged iron, and that's what kills him.
Yeah.
Where did you get this information,
and then
buddy?
he's like, and as you know, you don't put it through the heart, you put it through the center of energy below the heart. He's like,
Yeah.
who's ever said that?
like,
I honestly thought he was gonna say into their crotch
Right.
when he said that. Like that's what I assumed because it was
Right
like,
in the
Right in the moneymaker, babe. But yeah, like all that stuff's.
I mean, you have sunglasses on, and wearing a black hoodie.
And then you have like Kane running around like in the vampire infected London with that sword thing,
Which is it turns into like essentially just a zombie movie in the city, which is it's so cool that it shifts. Like it starts out like this space Odyssey film, they lean into that. Then it gets on ground, and it very much it's almost like American Werewolf in London. You know what I mean? Like there's detectives trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And then it turns into like a zombie film at the end.
That's one thing I do like about this is the
yeah.
movie does shift, so you kind of get, like you said, almost like 3 movies in one. So and I think that's one thing I do really like about it is because like, if anything you can say about this movie, it's not boring. Like there might be low parts that kind of, but once you get through that, like it just
like
the Patrick Stewart kiss and all the other stuff going on.
like when I was sitting there, and then like there's the part where they're in the helicopter, like Patrick Stewart's dead body and the other body, and like their blood is pouring out of their faces, and then it creates
that's
like a
cool,
blood
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Like
That's an awesome scene.
I love that. I love that scene.
I wanted that Patrick Stewart prosthetic. I wish I could buy that on eBay. Just to, like I'm sure it's just the bust up, but I would pay good money for that.
and then it has like
Yeah,
blood dripping out.
Yeah, like all like it's in reverse, I guess. It's like pouring out. I guess they tilt it on its side, and then all the blood comes out, forms a heart, and then it forms Matilda,
Space
right?
Girl.
Yeah.
and then she explodes.
It actually reminded me of, unfortunately, I ended up watching all of True Blood. That was a cheese grater to the dick kind of a move that I think William and I both pulled.
I only watched through the point that I became single, and then I
Okay,
stopped
good-
watching
good
it.
for you. I don't know why.
I'm no longer
But
obligated
in
to
the
watch
later
this.
seasons, there's like a blood vampire lady. I think it's supposed to be like Lilith. But it reminded. I watched that and I was like, oh, they totally ripped that off of this. Like they totally saw this because it looks like if you go and find that like this image or an image of this Lilith from True Blood.
Yeah.
It even like the character or the actress they got to play here even kind of looks a lot like, I would say looks a lot like Matilda May. I mean, she's dark complected, dark hair, looks about the same like stature.
Yeah, she's very pretty, Matilda.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I mean, it was the 80s. They had to.
Apparently, they said they I think they looked at like 1,000 women or something for that.
That sounds about right.
but-
They had those binders of women.
Yeah,
just
Binders
sitting
full
around.
of women.
I'm
That's
sure
where Mitt
True
Romney got
Blood,
it.
like, I'm sure at that point too, they were probably just
Give me them
digging through
binders.
any vampire films they could find.
Yeah.
To get influence and stuff.
And if out of
for
all the
sure.
stuff that a mainstream audience is not going to pick up on, I would assume Lifeforce is
Yeah,
not
that's
something
like, we'll
that's.
just take this.
Well, like I said, I had never even heard of Life Force till I was told about it that we were doing it for this podcast.
Well, there's a lot of movies
So, like-
from the 80s that would come out and then are just really hard to kind of watch
But
now.
I'll say this too, though, like a lot of times, though, even watching like a lot of the stuff we do, like you watch horror movie shows that talk about different. Like, I've never even heard about this movie, anything at all, ever.
It kind of disappeared after it
So-
came out.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too, like you go through YouTube sometimes and watch like horror movie collages with like ridiculous death scenes. I've never actually seen any of the stuff from that movie in any of this either. And
Yeah.
you'll see some really obscure stuff, and you have to go like do an hour worth of research to find out where it came from. Even with this, it's like I've never had all this was fresh to me. I never had not seen one scene from this movie till now.
Yeah, so I guess too, like, so the end stuff in like London, like the kind of zombie movie, and then the ending where Carlson takes the sword thing and shoves it between him and the space girl, and then their essences go into the ship, and then it flies away.
Back
That's
back
just-
from whence it
that's-
came.
That's just it. Like,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah,
it.
it's a weird. Also too, I could wrote down. It kind of reminds me of Under the Skin and Species.
Oh, I can definitely see the
Yeah.
species. Why
Have you
think
seen
that on
Under the Skin?
I have not.
Okay,
I've seen it. I've seen
Have you
I've
seen
watched
that, Williams?
I've watched parts of it, then fell asleep and forgot to
Wait a minute.
finish it.
Always
That's
get
where Scarlett Johansson's like naked and
Yeah.
she's picking up guys in a van.
Wait,
The
is that,
actual
So
shot.
Scarlett
is that
Johansson's-
Species?
No, that's
No.
Under the
Okay.
Skin.
No, Species is
That's one where Mark
Natasha.
Madsen's in it, and there's the girl who's like the alien hybrid thing.
But they went in space and picked it up, right? Like
been a while since I've
There's like
seen
so
it.
many of these movies are like
Yeah,
that.
Well, and there are like 17 species movies.
Yeah, the second one, the astronaut comes back and he has
Sex with
something
everybody,
in
and
him,
keeps having all the
and then
kids.
they're drawn together.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, she's trying to mate in that first one,
Yeah.
just because it's like a sexual
trying
space
to
thing. And then
mate.
Under the Skin, the premise is basically it's very kind of ambiguous, but Scarlett Johansson is essentially like this alien creature being thing, and she seduces and picks up men and essentially sucks their life force out.
and that was the
She doesn't suck them out, but you know what I mean? It's a lot more visual and abstract than that. But because she's so attractive, she gets all these men.
well, and two, they actually had her driving around in a van, picking up real people at like outside of bars and like hopping areas where they were shot.
that.
So
Yeah.
that was like stuff that it was like real reactions they then got waivers from after they shot them.
Yeah.
And then she's actually naked in it too, isn't she?
I like that movie. I need to watch it again. I went to the theaters to see it. It's kind of slow, but
it's no Lucy.
it made me want to watch it again. Like I was like, oh, it's pretty good after I saw it. But there's something there that I really like, and I want to revisit that film.
So back to Lifeforce. So did it stick the landing with the direction it went at the end for everybody, or
It's just an odd movie.
What do you mean, like with the
Yeah.
direction?
Well, like-
it
like,
take?
did you-
'Cause
like,
it was
did-
all over the place the
Yeah,
whole time.
like-
Okay, are you saying like were you happy with the way it ended?
Well, I
like,
think too, like a lot of these movies have like thematic consistency and like an overall message. This one, I don't really know what the message was, and it just kind of like
It was
ended.
that he was horny as hell.
Yeah.
He didn't care about just. I guess he did try to save the human race or whatever, because he did try stabbing her, but in the end they just went up into space and
Yeah, I mean, I
I guess assumingly are still alive, right?
yeah, and I guess I mean, well,
They're floating in there,
it just ends so ambiguously. It's like the ship kind of looks like it's about to roll out, and
Yeah. So he stabs through her, which assumingly it goes through him too, maybe.
no, it should it does show come out. It
Okay.
comes out through his back,
And then they go up through that energy thing William was talking about, through the sky. They kind of
blue
just
light.
float up, and then they show the spaceship in outer space.
yeah,
and
I
then
think
it ends.
like everything like closes up and
Yeah.
just kind of.
Like we ran out of money again, so it's done.
Yeah.
just the opening music William pointed out is similar to the X-Men opening music.
Yeah, or the X-Men theatrical
Yeah.
score
They did
is
something,
similar.
and it
God,
is.
you had to sneak an X-Men.
But
reference.
that was
William's
Did you,
hey,
turd.
That was William's fault.
No,
He
it's like
pointed
dun
it
dun 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 dun
really
dun
is.
dun
They,
dun 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 dun.
They pulled up the theme because I didn't know what they were talking about, and it's actually
It's pretty-
Yeah,
pretty
there's just a
similar.
little part though. It's
Maybe
not
I'll
big.
plug that
I
into
mean-
maybe I'll plug that into this discussion.
Yeah.
and then we'll do a supercut of every time Derek's talked about X-Men. I don't have that much time. I'm not doing that.
Okay, so
Have I talked about that or Dragon Ball Z more?
X-Men.
It's probably starting to even out.
There's just
talk
more
about
X-Men
Dragon Ball.
fodder. They keep making more movies.
Yeah.
So you're talking. So what are the highlights of this film? I think definitely the Patrick Stewart kiss. The guy's getting horny as hell seeing her.
Yeah.
You know, some of the Lifeforce sucking effects.
The kind of zombies.
Did do some weird, they actually have some weird, use some weird camera effects and camera things. I noticed. Like, there's a scene where the Columbia is going up to the Churchill, and they do that weird upside down shot of the astronauts. I feel like it's to give that, like, you know, oh, we're in space, like that the space shuttle's floating sort of thing. But it's just a shot of the cockpit upside down. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't really know why they're doing this shot this way, but all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Roll with
and you could tell there's quite a few times they use a wide angle for like a wide shot instead of just having like a wide shot.
Yeah,
yeah, they have
It's
some
more
kind
of
of
a
fish eye on it.
Yeah, like a fish eye.
I noticed that
Yeah.
several times too. You think use that wide angle lens, that fisheye lens, for maybe some closer ups to get more of an effect. But like sometimes they use it on a wide shot, and it was like, for what reason for this? Yeah,
It almost was like, are they trying to make it look like someone's looking at them? Like,
or unsettling. But yeah, they did an exterior of the mental institute, and it seemed like there was no real good reason.
It's probably just because they're like, oh, we want to get this all in frame. Just shoot it on this lens. We're not switching them off the camera.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, apparently they spent, on the trivia said too, I guess the guys on wires for the space scenes, that was taking so long. There was some days when they would only get a few seconds of footage a day.
Yeah.
So I think they would probably...
and that probably was what ate up some of the budget too, is just taking so long to do those scenes. And
I mean,
then,
the scale of this is really impressive for a Canon film, I think. Like, which, I mean, I guess Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 has some awesome set design on that. You know what I mean? Like, very elaborate. It's
Yeah.
not just a house that time. But, like, there's even one scene where a guy's at the zombie thing at the end. He's running out, and it's a shitty looking fence, but they basically made a door with barbed wire, and he's asking to leave. Like, he got clearance to get through that area.
Yeah.
And it's like they built this whole set and this fence and everything for literally a shot that was like 3 seconds long.
Yeah.
And
But that fence looked like it wouldn't keep anything.
no,
on.
yeah, it looked like the shittiest looking fence ever. It was just like some barbed wire taped to it.
And they had
And it wasn't even on hinges, I don't think. They were just like moving it and putting it back.
then like this movie brought in like NATO. And,
they're NATO. We've got to answer to NATO. I love that. It's like,
what?
No, I didn't. You're against NATO?
I love films that like are very much based around a science or scientists and stuff, but it's apparent that like nobody has any real understanding.
Yeah.
Like, and I was thinking about this film too because they have that room. There's a room when the astronaut, the main character that came down in the escape pod, when he first comes back to explain what happened. It's that typical like sci-fi movie thing, like the not good sci-fi thing, where people introduce themselves like, "Oh, I'm a scientist," and they just basically say what their title is, and you never really see them doing anything that would indicate what their role is.
Yeah.
It's just men pretending to be this scientist or whatever,
Yeah.
just in
Like
service
Fallada.
of. Yes, yeah.
Like
I mean, it's
Dr. Fallada. Like, I wish they had played up more, because obviously he's got an interest in like the macabre and like the pseudosciences and like crypto science, I guess would be like the right word, because he's like, I really studied death. And like, I wish they had played up that because he's kind of really, you get the sense that he's kind of a kook.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I wish
Yeah.
they had played up like that Reichian, I'm referencing like Wilhelm Reich, which if you don't know he was almost kind of an Elron contemporary in a way. But he believed in this life force energy called orgone, which was released every time a person reaches orgasm, and it was actually a blue. It's actually a blue substance that you emit.
Okay.
Every time this happens, so it reminded me of that because all the life forces are blue light shooting through that, and Fallada I think is I don't know if that was maybe an homage to Reich in any way.
Yeah.
Maybe. That comes from the source novel,
Space Vampires,
for the Space Vampires or whatever. But I feel like that might have been an influence, and I kind of wish they had played Fallada a little more that way, as just this kind of kook. But I guess they wanted to make him like a serious doctor, so it makes sense that he would be involved with the space agency at all.
Yeah.
That was just me. I don't know. I like that kind of
There's definitely a lot
stuff.
of things you could break down in this film.
But
it's enjoyable nonetheless.
And
if you go into it looking at it like this isn't Alien. You know what I mean? This isn't like a hard sci-fi. This is very much like a light sci-fi.
Oh,
it's
for
there
sure.
for just to get the plot across.
It does what it. I mean, it really does. I think what it's supposed to do. It entertains you. Like at the end of the day, this isn't an unentertaining film,
No.
and that's part of why I was like, at least this won't bore them.
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's one of the things too. We always talk about like watching a lot of these older movies, and I said I'd never watched this, heard of it, or knew it existed. And it was like one of those things where the only reason why I fell asleep during it is just because I didn't watch it last night till late, and it wasn't
I
because
was
it
the
was
same thing.
boring.
Thanksgiving.
We all did that.
Yeah, we all
1
did
o'clock
that
in the morning.
But
Oh,
it's
turkey.
not because it's like different movies you watch are genuinely boring. That just like I was so tired I fell asleep. But then I got back and watched it, and it's like there's just so much craziness in it that I don't know. It's pretty entertaining, but it's kind of like the weird. I don't know, just off the wall.
It's one of those things
stuff,
we talk like I always kind of break it in terms of like if you have this like you're at a party and you want to show like a horror film or like a genre film or stuff like that, like could you show this to a room of people who aren't into that type of film?
I think you could.
Like I think there's enough crazy stuff that if you tell them they just have to kind of wait it out.
There's explosions and everything.
Yeah, and then there's like it's like hey,
nudity and
Naked
explosions.
women. Yeah.
there's a huge turning point in the film that revolves around a forced kiss with Patrick Stewart.
I mean,
Well,
And it's like I think there's enough kind of off the wall stuff there to
would
get somebody to
work.
watch it,
Yeah.
like for pure entertainment value. Even if you don't love the like I said, the movie like it just kind of ends, and you're like, well,
Okay.
that ended.
Yeah.
And then I kind of fell asleep a little bit, and I went back and rewatched it all this morning. And I was like, oh, okay, this made more sense because like I fell asleep during a small amount of it, but yeah. So
The trivia said too, apparently, so Dan O'Bannon, I guess, wrote supposedly the version of the script that they shot, but there was something saying that some people say that version was thrown out. But the one thing I kept thinking before I read this, but one thing I kept thinking about is Dan O'Bannon. I have one of Dan O'Bannon's screenwriting books and stuff. He's wrote Alien, Return of the Living Dead. He very much is somebody who I think knows structure very well in films, and that's what I kept thinking about. This film's really well structured. Like it keeps things keep moving. It's somebody who's disciplined and knows the art form of a script.
well, there are. I mean, this has very. I don't want to say acts, but it is. It's very much. There are like 3 acts to this film.
Yeah.
There are 3 parts.
Yeah,
to this
that's
film.
true. Yeah.
It's like space movie, science, and it's like science supernatural
Detective,
part. Detective.
mystery,
Or
yeah.
the mystery. Yeah, I'd say it's like the mystery detective part, which is I think where they should have played up the Fallotta. Like if they were going to play up the vampire mythology, that would have went perfectly into that second act. And then you have the 3rd act, which is like basically it's like disaster zombie, space vampire movie.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like even if they did throw out that script, they definitely probably took something from Dan O'Bannon. Just because, and again, the twist, I said that this wasn't like a big twist, but so when they go to, Patrick Stewart runs the school for the gifted X-Men. The criminally insane. So they go there and he's kind of walking them through, and he talks to he beats he slaps that nurse around, gets the information out, and then he tells Patrick Stewart like, oh, it's this one guy. He goes there and then he tricks Patrick Stewart, and then all of a sudden he takes that shot instead.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of like. That caught me off guard. I'm like, that's
too.
clever. This type of movie for what's happened so far, and especially the movies like in the 50s, you would expect them to play it straight. Like, okay, this is the guy. They're going to get the information. Like, I like that little turnaround and that twist. And then another thing too, when you find out that the guy who came down in the pod, the main character, he's kind of an unreliable person, because later on he tells them like, oh, actually I destroyed
all
it.
of
Yeah,
this.
like I like that too. Like
Yeah.
there were a couple things in there that I felt like they surprised me, and they were more clever than I gave them credit to be.
Yeah.
Until it happened.
then he's saying like, oh, it's a powerful burning love more than anything I've ever felt before. And she's like, I've modeled myself off of your like inner desires and stuff. So the space girl was kind of like his idealized version of a woman that she like turned into. which is an interesting technique.
Yeah. I mean, I like that concept. Like, it's weird because this could have went a lot of different directions. You know, I'm not saying
it could have been like an Alien knockoff or
I don't know. You know, I don't
things.
know. I don't know if it would have been because it is so crazy, the story and the rules and everything. Like, this is probably the best tone for this type of story because I don't know if it could have been taken seriously. They'd have to do some major changes to the script and story.
Yeah, to play it like a deadly serious.
Yes, so
I think you could do that with this story, though. Like, I absolutely believe that this movie could be remade.
Mm-hmm. I think it could too.
I think and you could go one of like 3 different ways with it. You could go real hard. I think you could go real hard, like with the sci-fi and the mythology aspect, and make those things like a serious thing. You could kind of keep the same, a similar tone to what the movie already was, which I think is probably the least advisable if you're going to do a remake of it.
There's been a lot of those I feel like it would have been almost self-aware now.
Yeah.
There's been too many of those, I think, now that are made that would be unappealing.
And for something that doesn't have like a huge cultural impact on people, like a lot of winks and nods to stuff doesn't necessarily work unless everybody knows what you're winking and nodding in.
But I think this movie has like
to.
such. It's not even like a cult classic almost, because like I said, I've never heard of it, so I feel like it is.
It has a cult. It has a cult following,
but it's
not like in the top tiers of convention stuff.
No, but it's something that I think if it was remade could be done very well, because it's like you kind of got free reign to do what you want with it. You know, I don't think anybody's gonna have to hold you to a certain standard like with Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, where like you have a core group and that's what they want. And if
they won't rip you apart. Yeah,
I feel like this you could like you said, go with one of either 3 ways on it, and I think any way would really work because there's really not a
I think what you could do, like you could kind of do, because this obviously isn't like the most serious movie in the world. You could do kind of what they did with the Evil Dead remake and just go super like, you know, Evil Dead is essentially a horror comedy, and that with the remake, I mean it's just brutal. You know, I mean it's just a brutal like.
Yeah, the only humor is in excess of gore.
Right, exactly.
I think it would, for the most appealing aspect to me, because sometimes when those movies are too serious, like it has to be handled and done very well to play. If if it misses the marks at all, then it becomes ridiculous in the wrong way. But like, I don't know why I'm thinking, but the tone I'm thinking of is almost like a Edgar Wright or Shaun of the Dead, where it's like you can make it humorous, but you have to take it seriously at the same time.
Absolutely.
Like I wouldn't want like just a campy like wink and a nod thing.
Right.
But I would almost like that Shaun of the Dead level, like respect but humor. Yeah. I think would play really well for this type of story.
I agree. Like I think that'd be a good way to do it, or just going like I said, like very hard into the like make it look very like a very good sci-fi movie.
Yeah,
and have that like. Draw more on the like the like how these are creatures that have been visiting Earth off and on,
which I love that
thousands of years.
I love that idea.
Like just go into that mythology with it, but make it like it's space mythology basically.
Yeah,
astral projections and space cosmology brothers with the psychedelic Avengers.
Yeah, so
Doctor Strange.
So too, like sometimes like we talk about like giving stuff, like trying to come up with like, oh, what's a like review score out of like 10 we would give it. Like this, like I always say, like they're kind of meaningless scores, and like something like this where it's more entertaining than it is good. Like the scores are always kind of useless. Let's see, like what was the average? Let me look at the average IMDb score.
This is a weird movie.
It's a 6.1 out of 10.
Yeah, as I say, it's got a pretty decent.
So like I think it's 6.1 out of 10. Like I think that's in the right range to me, in that. You know, it's interesting enough to check out if you haven't seen it. But it's not like a genre redefining movie. I mean, what that genre would be, did it redefine? I don't know. But it's one of those movies like where I think it's worth looking at just because of the kind of the absurdity that's in it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Is like it's so absurd, and there's just so like even if you like Patrick Stewart, just watch it for the awkward kiss, you know. But like. I think I'd have to go right with about that score, you know, a 6 or 7.
So I think like a 7 or so.
Like,
what about you, Jake?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like this movie a lot. It's just so, it's just all over the place in like the best way.
More so than some of the other ones we've done. I could see myself watching this one again, though.
I much prefer this over the original Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Like, having watched these two,
yeah.
the original Have Eyes was like, yeah.
Well, once
Whereas this one's got so much stuff going on. That,
Well, and too, like with The Hills Have Eyes, there is the remake that's a little bit more
remake's
modernized and same general concepts, but just like more budget, so it's just executed better. As opposed to like with this, there's really nothing contemporary you can compare it to.
yeah, there's really not.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely stands on its own because it blends so many different genres, and I just like how they go for it. You know what I mean? They're not afraid to like back down on any of this stuff. Like, no, yeah, this space vampires thing, like they suck the life force out of you, and you get real horny around them, and like they're vampires. Like they do not care. They just go for it, and you just enjoy it.
They went for broke. I liked it. I love it. That's
Yeah, so I guess that'll wrap up our discussion of Lifeforce. And if you want to find more of the stuff we're doing, you can find all of our work at housebyvideostore.com. You can find links there to all the social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Vine while it still exists, although we don't really use it, Vimeo, and all the stuff's there. You can do us a huge favor if you're listening to the podcast and you're subscribing via iTunes, or if you're not, you still just can go out and leave a review that helps other people find the podcast. And we care about downloads. We don't care if you listen. We don't know if you've listened. We just know that you download. So that's the key thing there. And then if you want to find more things that we're doing,
We do care if you listen. We would.
Well, yeah, we want you to listen.
care that you listen.
If you listen, have a question, comment, or anything
listen,
like that,
guys.
send it to email at podcast at housebyvideostore.com. Send an email to that.
Send a podcast.
send a podcast to the email.
Yeah,
Send us all your
we'll listen to it,
podcasts.
Yeah, so do that. Then if you
I
want
just hope somebody records a special podcast just for William. One-man show.
Somebody's doing a podcast reviewing our podcast. Well, in episode 2.
Great if it was about mustard.
Oh no, I don't like mustard. Like Indiana Jones and snakes or Nazis. Like with me, it's like mustard. It's like, why'd it have to be mustard? But if you want to find more of the things we're doing specifically on the internet, you can find me on Twitter at will_droid.
You can find me on most major social networking stuff at MetaWorld Derek.
I'm at Blevin Sean on Twitter.
And I'm at Ginger Earl on basically everything. That's an E on the end.
How do you spell that one more time?
Ginger, EARLE.
Okay.
Yep. So and then
Thanks for being on, Jake. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
We're glad
thanks
you
for
got
having me, guys.
Come on.
This has been fun.
Good choice too.
I do what I can. Well, I think I had this conversation with William, and I think even you, when I'd been in town, like over the summer. I had mentioned the movie, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that, but I hadn't seen it." So when William asked me that, it was like immediate. I was like, "Okay,
Good,
Lifeforce."
Yep.
Yeah. Great
All
choice.
right, yeah, it's always good to have guests on. So that'll bring this episode of the House by Video Store podcast to a close. Thanks for listening. Patrick Stewart, yes.
House by the Video